Hey, thank you so much for taking your time. Aaron is an elder law attorney, and you've been doing this for how long, Aaron?
Oh, 20 years.
20 years. Okay. So you kind of know what you're doing. And will you, so all of our audience today are real estate investors that are in the process of going through our Mom's House certification program to work with people in the senior industry, elder law attorneys, communities, placement agents, anybody that's touching that senior family that might need a resource to help them sell the house kind of as is. And can you just, from your perspective, kind of share what you would describe the job of an elder law attorney is?
It is a bit nebulous compared to other lines of legal services. It's always a bit challenging because you see the billboards with the ones that say one word, divorce, one word, criminal, two words, traffic tickets, one word, bankruptcy. Takes a little bit more of an explanation. So an elder law attorney, actually it's a field that's very broad, but it is a specialized field. You are focusing in on issues that are specific to seniors. That's primarily what we do. So in the estate planning area, once again, two words that take quite a bit to explain. That would mean making sure that they have the right kind of incapacity documents in place for this season of life. That's a financial durable power of attorney, healthcare durable power of attorney. Are they a better candidate for a will, a trust, an asset protection trust? Sometimes we look at special needs trust planning if they have adult, disabled children. So all of those are the things that we look at. We deal with this big question: how are you going to pay for long-term care? In a nutshell, that's it. Because 50% of females are in a nursing home 2.5 to 3 years, 1/3 of males. So if we're an ostrich, it's going to sneak up on you, and you're not going to be ready. You're not going to have the right documents in place. You don't have the right planning in place. So that's a big picture overview.
When do you typically see families starting to think about that? What's that age range?
Mid 60s sometimes. Most of the time it's in their 70s, Ben.
Do you have families coming to you last minute, like when they're in the process of putting a loved one into a long-term care community? And is that too late, or what's that look like?
We have a lot of families that are last minute, Ben. So then we have to have emergency signings at these nursing homes that are locked down. So, because if you're in a nursing home and your spouse is putting you in and some of the assets are in your name, the name of the person in the nursing home, which is almost always the case, well, how do we move forward with planning to get help paying for the nursing home if the assets are in your name, you're in a nursing home, it's through a financial power of attorney, but you don't have one. So hopefully you can still sign one. So if you can still sign one, then we've got to send a team over to the nursing home and watch you sign through a window.
Wow.
So that's what we get to do. So it's ideal if you have these documents in place ahead of time.
And what percent, I know this is going to be totally ambiguous, but what percentage of the families do you think out there have even done anything like this?
Statistically, it ranges between 1 in 5 and 1 in 4.
So 20 to 25% of families have even thought about this.
Correct.
And I think it's probably those 20 to 25 is because they went through this with their dad already and they didn't want to go through it again.
Yeah, Philip said, do you have any speculation that the people that are really the planners are the people that have been through this before?
Definitely. We do a lot of planning with children on the backside because they don't want it to unfold with such a frenetic pace with all the pressure. So they are the ones that are probably planning. What
you-
we do see a lot of, Ben, if I could just make this comment real
Yeah,
quickly,
please.
over and over what we see is people have maybe a healthcare power of attorney, but they're under the mistaken assumption that that's all they need. And the reason they have a healthcare power of attorney, hospitals have these generic forms, and hospitals don't want another Nancy Cruzon case or the Florida case of several years ago. So they're pushing these documents, these generic healthcare documents in front of them for somebody to make healthcare decisions and life-ending decisions. So when people come in, like a spouse comes in, I said, okay, do you have a power of attorney for your spouse? I'm hoping. They slide me a document. Yeah, I do. Here it is. And it ends up being a healthcare power of attorney. And it does nothing for assets. So we run into that a lot.
The healthcare power of attorney is just the right, like a healthcare surrogate where you have the ability to turn off, basically turn off the ventilator or make medical decisions on behalf of somebody that's incapacitated. Is that what that is?
Correct. It usually involves two things. It's an advanced directive, which deals with everything you just explained, Ben, but it's also a power of attorney where you step into the shoes of another. You guide and direct the medical team, even if it's not for life-ending issues. It's just for general care, because the person you're working for cannot communicate at that point in time. And a good example of that is somebody who's had a stroke. They cannot communicate. They may have a pretty decent recovery over a period of time, but during that days, weeks, maybe even a few months, they need a communicator.
Can you talk about some of your experience of, I hate to use the word, kind of nightmares of what you've seen with families and how quickly the situation turns into full-blown crisis for families, and, you know, trying to make decisions of putting a loved one into long-term care?
Well, right down your line, guys. I had a family a year and a half ago that this doesn't happen a whole lot, but both of the parents were needing to go into the nursing home, and they needed to sell the home quickly. So if both parents are in the nursing home, the child needs to have the ability to sell the home. Okay. They had done internet documents, and some of the financial institutions were not accepting the internet documents, and the title company wasn't accepting the internet document.
You mean like a LegalZoom or something like that?
Correct. Because it doesn't have the exact required language that Missouri requires. So the places like banks, brokerage companies, insurance companies, and title companies, they have the money to afford, you know, legal counsel that's looking over these documents. They pull the Missouri statute, what language is supposed to be in there. So some places will take that power of attorney because they're not investing in that kind of personnel talent to scrutinize the documents. So in this case, they both fortunately still had the capacity to sign a document, but they'd found a nursing home out in Lafayette County. So we had to have a staff member get up to Lafayette County with the power of attorney and at this point they could still get in the building. Okay, this was pre-pandemic, but that's what it took, and they needed that document. It was critical because they had the sale set up. They thought they had everything, but the power of attorney wasn't acceptable because it didn't have the right language in it. And one thing for you guys to look for in the state of Missouri, a power of attorney in the notary block has to have these 4 words. It must have them: free, act, and deed. And a lot of online providers of these services, they don't pay attention to that. So the title company is going to reject it for sure. And so then you think you got a power of attorney, you think you have a done deal, and they reject the power of attorney.
Aaron, so can you comment on a lot of people are from different states, and so is that a pretty common thing in most states?
Yes, thank you for distinguishing that for me, Ben. So I'm giving Missouri as an example, but all the states have statutes indicating how these primary legal documents are to be executed. So, you know, you could go to a different state. It may not require those same words as you do in Missouri, but you want to just make sure that if you're going to be doing this and you're relying upon it, it wouldn't hurt if you pulled the statute of execution for the financial power of attorney for your state. And then you have the power of attorney that your client is using, and you could just flip back to the notary block and just go, okay, yeah, this looks good. You got the right language in there. Okay, so that helps a lot. The other thing that's important is the language that makes it durable. So you hear about a durable power of attorney. That's one thing the states agree on. They don't agree on a whole lot in anything, but pretty much all the states adopted a uniform law that said we'll use the term durable. Well, that just means it's good during an incapacity. Well, what makes it good during incapacity? Special language out of that state statute. So pulling that language that makes it durable is also important, because sometimes title companies, banks, insurance, and brokerage companies will not accept language that's anything other than the exact language out of the statute. So our state, for example, says this language or substantially similar language. So it doesn't say it has to be word perfect, but sometimes legal counsel for these big companies will require it to be word perfect, or they will not accept it. Well, none of us really have the means or time to fight a big company on this issue. They would ultimately lose, but who can waste their time and money winning that? So you basically just want to make sure the document you're relying upon is going to be in compliance. One thing to do this in your field is if you get a good, and Ben's probably already told you this, establish a relationship with a reputable title company. And then that title company, part of its protocol, if you're dealing with somebody who has a power of attorney, you get a copy of that power of attorney, you get it in front of your title company, and plenty of time for legal counsel for the title company to review it. And if there are any problems, they're flushed out early enough to maybe get a new power of attorney signed, or there's an issue.
You haven't wasted 2 or 3 weeks thinking you're doing a deal, and then they say no at closing.
That's exactly right, because time is money for you guys. And if you're in a highly competitive market like we are in Kansas City right now, you don't want any missteps.
Are there things that you might recommend, and I don't want you to go on a limb here and give any legal advice, but are there things you might recommend if any of our certified investors come into a situation like that, how they might try to figure out how to fix that? If they've got a contract signed, but then the person that signed it didn't have the right language on their power of attorney, what can they do next to try to resolve that?
Well, if the person still has capacity that signed the power of attorney, then you could just have that actual person sign it. Make an arrangement, special arrangements, maybe to meet them at their home or wherever they're at. Maybe they're in assisted living, something like that. And so whatever the title company's protocol is for that, of course, these are notarized documents, of course. What makes it very difficult in a pandemic world is we just don't have the same flexibility. But some of your states already have in place statutes that allow electronic signing. So that's the other thing to kind of check on through your Secretary of State's offices. Do they allow electronic signing? For example, in Missouri, the governor just signed a law that went into effect the end of August, but our state hasn't even written the regs on that yet. So we still can't take advantage of that new law until there are regs in place. So That would be helpful though, because then maybe you could do an electronic signing as long as that's okay with the title company. You just have to make sure there's a device available that that person can be seen as set forth by the title company. So
Besides the obvious of going to Google and Googling elder law attorneys, and I know in Missouri and Kansas, we have, associations of elder law attorneys where our students could go out and find people to have relationships. They're looking to create relationships with elder law attorneys that might have families that need to sell the house and don't want to rehab it. They just need to get the deal done as is. What are other ideas on where they should go off and go find, networking opportunities to go meet elder law attorneys?
you could go to Elder Council, and that's spelled C-O-U-N, Council, S-E-L. Actually, I totally misspelled it too.
Are you sure?
No,
Are
I
you
didn't.
sure?
S-E-L, Elder Council. And I'm a member of Elder Council, and these are attorneys that take elder law very seriously. We get to pay a lot of money to this organization. And look if somewhere in your area there is an Elder Council attorney. If there's not, then you could go to NALA, the National Academy of Elder Law Attorneys. I would go to Elder Council first though, okay? But NALA would be next, but NALA is a lot broader. NALA is not nearly as expensive. So you might end up with somebody that's a member of NALA that elder law is just kind of one of many, many things they do. Like for us, we're estate planning and elder law. That's all we do. We do probate, but probate just kind of goes along with that. But you have other people that do 5, 10 areas of law, and they could be part of NALA, but they definitely would not be part of Elder Council because they wouldn't want to pay the money.
I agree with you. We do some education for NALA members, more on that for the long-term care insurance claim stuff, just for attorneys to understand that piece. And it does seem like there's a lot of people in that organization that are doing a lot of other stuff, and it's not at this flashpoint that we're looking for when they're moving into long-term care. How are we doing on time for you?
I have about 10 minutes left.
Okay, great. You have some other wisdom that you want to share, or things that you'd like to share versus me hitting you with questions? Wait a minute. Say it again.
How does he find customers?
The question is how do you find customers?
Oh, how do I find them?
Yeah.
Well, Ben, this is one of the things Ben does too, because Ben is a multifaceted entrepreneur, so he does lots of things. But one of the things that we do, we go to professional and aging organizations. So in Eastern Jackson County, where we're at, there's one that's just for professionals and aging. So who is that? That's a combination of home care companies, assisted livings, independent livings, nursing homes, hospice. It's just got a whole variety of people who serve seniors, and those exist in your communities. So that's a good place to go. And you just start going. You start learning who people are, networking, figuring that out. And so that's a good starting point. And then that leads to, one contact leads to another contact. Another thing is in normal times, there's a lot of in spring and fall, there's senior fairs, a lot of them. And we have on board a community liaison person, and she's head of our marketing. So one of her responsibilities is to go to as many of those as possible. Of course, right now.
Is that Lainey? Is that who does that?
That's Lainey. And of course, those aren't happening right now, but that's all going to return. And whether it's virtual, some people are trying to do them virtually right now, or in person. So senior fairs, events like that, you could do some volunteer work like we have a community center in Independence that brings in a lot of seniors called the Palmer Center. We have Lainey do volunteer work there. Why? Because she gets acquainted with other volunteers, not so much the people that would come to the Palmer Center, but because they're probably not necessarily in your market, but she gets acquainted with other people that are volunteering. And it also helps with your credibility because now you're giving back to the community.
Fantastic.
So those are just some initial tips. I do have one tip, Ben, I don't want to run out of time for.
Oh, you're okay.
And that's how you buy these homes. So I'm going to have to just use Missouri on this, but I would think the other states are similar. So let me set this up very briefly because this is actually a very complicated area of law. So I won't go into a lot of depth, but a lot of times what's happening is you have a family member transitioning from a home and they're going into some sort of long-term care. And if they are trying to get help paying for a nursing home, that's a combination to get that help. It's a public benefit. In each state, it's really called vendor nursing home Medicaid, but every state has their pet name for that program. But that's a combination of federal and state rules. And the feds, in order for the states to get some of the federal budget helping them out, the feds are sticklers on how the rules have to be followed. So one of those rules is when you sell and liquidate a piece of property, whether it's a car, a boat, or a home, you have to prove that it brought fair market value. Now you guys are going in and getting as is properties. That's all part of the business plan, and that's great. But here's what you really need to do to help out that family. Get, in our state anyway, so this would have to be verified with an elder law attorney in your particular state, but in our state, the state of Missouri will accept a realtor's ladder. It does not have to be an appraiser. It will accept a realtor's ladder as to what the as-is price is. So then we normally, so let's say really quickly, we have a property that the county says is worth $100,000. But in its as-is condition, at best, it's worth $60,000. Because we're in a state, we have lots of freezes and thaws, so we have drywall problems. We have to replace windows. It plays havoc with basements and so forth. So those are common issues. So then you support, the realtor goes to the property, says, oh my gosh, we have all these problems. There's no way this is going to bring what the county says it's worth. So the realtor writes the opinion. It's only going to be worth $60,000. Okay. And then you support that with a couple of bids of the big ticket issues. Like it's going to take, $20,000 to replace the windows. It's going to take 10, 12, 13,000 on the basement, whatever the main problems are. Then the state of Missouri, at the time of receiving that Medicaid application, will come off of the gold standard, what the county says it's worth, the tax assessed fair market value, and they will accept that realtor's ladder. What if that doesn't happen? That 100 minus 60, if you cannot prove the 60, the state will treat that, they will impute it as a $40,000 gift. A $40,000 gift. And the federal law has issues with gifts. So they will divide, each state's divisor is different, but the rules requiring all of this are the same. So in the state of Missouri, you'd have to take that 40,000 and divide it by 6,425, because that's what our average cost for a nursing home is according to the state. Well, all of a sudden, oh my gosh, all we did was sell a house. We needed to sell it. Everybody in the world knows it's an as-is condition, but you don't have proof for it. So now you get stuck with a 6 and almost 7-month gifting issue. So they won't turn on Medicaid for 7 months. So it can be disastrous.
That's specific.
And all you need is that realtor's ladder.
Yeah, we use Faster House.
So that's specifically to Medicaid only. Is that the same with anything related to VA? Do you know?
VA isn't as picky about that. The VA rules are very, very different with respect to that. So I don't think VA in general is going to be quite as tricky, but that's why you need a relationship with an elder law attorney in your area, because VA rules are so different than
Yes.
the Medicaid rules.
All right, so let's shift back to the Medicaid. So your recommendation would be when they do the deal as is, just go ahead and pull together, here's what some of the repair value would be for if they're not, a lot of people are not agents, but they may have a brokerage as a sister company. Somebody else could get a letter to say it was going to be $5,000 to fix the 10,000 HVAC, the roof, the windows repaired, and just have that all as a packet. And they need to get, they would have that as part of the kind of the closing and give it to the family. So
Yep.
they had that when they submit
Yep.
for Medicaid.
That would be perfect. That would be perfect. Just
Okay.
so that there is a realtor on the realtor's letterhead, and you're going to help that family out tremendously.
Yeah, and once again, the judge doesn't want to argue. He just wants to know, oh, okay, that it's there. He just wants to see that you
Yeah,
guys thought
it's
about it.
it's just due
He
diligence.
just, cool,
Yep.
close the file. He wants that document.
That was an amazing amount of information you spit out in a short period of time, Aaron.
Thank you, Aaron.
Yeah.
You're very
I know you've
welcome.
got-
And I am pleased that you guys are going through Ben's training, because we need more people that are competent doing this. You know, because real estate's hot, and especially in our area, it's so hot. You have everybody trying to jump in. But a lot of these people don't know what the heck they're doing. And some of them are actually hurting people. So I'm so glad that you guys are taking the time to go through this training and just, you know, help really care for seniors, because it's like Ben's final comments before I got on. He is so right. People so oftentimes they go, just take care of it. Just do it, you know, because they're overwhelmed. So they just need somebody thinking about some of these details. Oh, by the way, you're going to need this too, possibly. And so anyway, best wishes to all of you. Ben, thanks for the privilege of being on.
Oh, thank you. No, it was our privilege. No, thank you so much. It was good to see you again. Bye, Aaron.
Hey.
Okay, bye, you guys.
Thank you.